In this week's GibbsCAM video, we're going to show you how to do pinch turning, pinch drilling, and pinch milling on a machine that has a dual turret, upper turret, lower turret. It has to be an upper and lower turret. It can't be two turrets on the top because you can't get underneath and do pinch milling and pinch turning. So any kind of machine like a DMG NTX, NZX, a Kuma Multus, or an LU, Mazak Integrex, or an HQR or MP multiplex, or a DN, which was Doosan, a Puma SMX, or a Nakamura NTY. So let's start out. You can see I have my part in here. This is what we want to machine. I'm going to cut some flats along here and drill some holes on the top. And of course we want to do pinch turning, and then pinch milling and pinch drilling. So the first thing I want to do is, of course, bring in some processes. But let's go through the tools first. So the first tool I have is going to be on the upper turret, in this case the milling spindle, which is the upper turret, tool group 1. And you can see the position of the tool, and of course the insert's facing backwards. Second tool would be on the upper turret as well, but this is for finishing, the OD. Next tool is from the OD, the upper turret, and this is going to be a 1/2 inch drill. And the last one on the upper turret is a 1 inch end mill. Now as far as the lower turret goes, let's open up that one. Of course that's going to be an 80-degree diamond, lower turret facing up here in position number 1. Next tool is going to be the same one as the upper one, a 1/2 inch drill, and that's going to be on the lower turret, position 2. And the third tool on the lower turret is going to be a 1 inch end mill, lower turret, position number 3. Of course you can see lower turret and our offsets there. So let me bring in the first process here. So in order to do pinch turning, we have to have two processes here. Let's open up the first one here. So we're going to set an OD. Of course our stock size and our actual material size right here. Of course on the main spindle, my depth of cut, all my feeds and speeds I want to use, and of course we're leaving stock here. So that'll be the first process. Now the second process, if I just go to change process to show you that once you created the first one, you will have one called pinch roughing right there. So that's the process you'll see once you create the first one here. Now the one thing you got to be aware of on the tool is you have to say you're cutting on the X minus side, so you're cutting on the below side. The post processor will take care of the X pluses and X minuses on the actual code. But as you can see, we did number 1, so the second process is going to be number 7. So if I open this up, it's going to bring up this dialog box. You can see the master process is going to be process number 1, so that's talking about this one right over here. And then you can give it a lead or a lag distance. Usually you stay around the tool nose radius or a little bit more. In this case, I just have 50 thou in there. So if we click on what we want to cut, direction we want to go, where we want to end. I'm going to end on this face right there and right at that tangent point. So then when you click do it, you'll see you have the process on the top and the process on the bottom. Now if we were to render this, let's take a look here. And in this example, we're using a B-axis upper head, but it doesn't matter whether it's a stationary turret up top or not, but still programs the same way. So if we run this, and you can see the lower turret weights, or the upper turret would weight, depending on which one's leading first. So you can see our pinch turning right there, what that looks like. You can see the different colors. That's based on which tool is cutting that actual surface. So you can see the colors over here. So that's our pinch turning. Now next we want to do some pinch drilling. So I'll clear this out and I'll bring in the next operation there. Well, actually, we want to take a finish pass first, sorry. So we'll do that with number 2 here. So I want to start again over here. Let's just open this up so you can see what we're doing. We're just doing an OD and just taking a finish pass along this. So nothing new there. And we'll Control Shift to there. So I'm basically going to cut backwards on there. So we'll just say do it, and there's our finish pass there. Now we want to do the pinch drilling next. So let's bring in the next operation here. So again, we're doing 2 ops here. I'll bring up the first one. That's with tool number 3, which is our 1/2-inch drill on the upper turret. As you can see, we're on the, which we need to change to a YZ plane main spindle. And this has 6 holes. So we need to change this to 2 more times at 120 degrees. Because we'll already have 1 hole drilled in there at the first location. Let's go back to the drill tab. We're just doing a PEC full out. I have my feeds there. RPM, we'll just put this up to 1,000, but you can see what we're doing here. Clearance and the PEC amount. So the upper turret and lower turret, I'm giving it the same RPM feed rate and the same clearance and PEC. So we're just pecking down, drilling down to 0.3 from the center line of the part. Now if I look at process number 2, you can see it's using tool number 8, which is the 1/2-inch drill on the lower turret. And again, YZ plane. This time I'm starting at 180 degrees off, so it's right below. It's 180 degrees off what the top one is, so basically starting in the same orientation on the C. Again, 2 more times, 120 degrees. And again, let's make this the same. And again, 20 thou clearance, PEC 125, same amount on the depth and everything else. So if we bring up our orientation here, click on the point we want to do, and click on do it, now you'll see we have 6 holes in there, 1 with the lower, 1 with the upper. Now the last thing we want to do, let's clear this out, is do some pinch milling. This was pinch drilling. So if we clear this out, bring up load our process for op number 6 and 7. This is going to use tool number 4, which is our 1-inch end mill on the upper turret, tool 9, which is our 1-inch end mill on the lower turret. So if we open this first one up, again, we're on the YZ plane, main spindle, 2 more times, 120. And I'm just going to input 1,000 there, so everything will be the same. We'll say 20 there. And our distance here, our rapid distance, everything else there, we're on the rotate side. Of course, that's good. And then the second process is going to be same thing, YZ plane, 180 again, off. And I believe I had 1,000 there and 30. Let's just double check to make sure that's the same. 20 and 20. Sorry, we'll change this back. Everything else there is the same. So let's click on let's go to a home view here. Actually, let's go to the coordinate system first. We can just right click and say change to that coordinate system. Click on the home view. We'll start right there. And it'll automatically snap to the beginning and end. So we'll click on do it there. Rewind. Now let's do a cut part render so you can see what's going on there. So you can now see the 2 views I have here, just an isometric view and then basically the top view there. So if I render this, you see the pinch turning looks pretty good. Maybe synced, maybe not, but it looks like it's synced. And then you look at the milling, and as you can see, it's going to bring up a lot of alarms because of course it's trying to turn and mill or drill all at the same time, so it doesn't look very good there. We'll speed it up. You can see our part looks pretty bad there. So we're going to stop this, and we're going to, of course, let's rewind it first. Stop it. We'll go back to the front view there. So if when you're working with multiple tool groups or multiple control that has more than one flow, you need to sync up the spindles and the tools you're going to use on the part. So if I bring up the sync control, which is what is in Gibbs, you're going to see a lot of alarms there. A whole list of alarms as it's checking it, saying, you know, you're trying to mill while you're trying to turn, etc. A lot of errors there that you can see. So this is the sync control in Gibbs. You have either the operation sync, and this one remove sync, and this one stroke sync, and then you have, of course, up here sync mode, operation mode, and spindle mode. So we want to kind of sync these up so everything works good. Now you can either turn this off here. This is uniform view. If you take that off, we'll expand this a little bit. You can reduce those. So what's this showing you? What this is showing you right here is the time between flows, and second flow, third flow, fourth flow. It gets a little busy here, and it's not quite easy to see, so I usually click on this button here that says uniform, and then you can make them a little bigger, a little smaller, whatever you'd like there. So if you look at the flows here, you can see it's turning, and it's turning with the upper and lower. This is flow 1, flow 2, of course. So these are pretty much synced, look pretty good. Might change that a little bit. But then you can see the next operation on the upper turret is going to do the finish turning there. But at the same time, it wants to mill. So you're seeing these two conflict there. That's why you have one of the other alarms. And then the same thing here, it's trying to do the drilling while it's still trying to run the flats on there. So another error there. So let's fix a few things here. Let's first do some syncing and say, I don't want the drilling to start until the turning is finished. So I click on the upper one and the lower one there and say sync them together. And a few alarms have gone away. So you can see these are synced here. So basically this is not going to start drilling until the turning is done. And so the next operation we want to do is probably sync up the milling on here. So let's say I want these to start at the same time. So a few less codes there. But actually I'm going to correct this. As you can see, you can make any changes you want pretty quickly. So I'm going to click these two and say over here, unsync them. And go back to here and say I want to sync this one with this one. And we'll do a sync there. A few less alarms now. And same thing on the bottom. So I want to do a few more things like this one here, stroke sync. So if I click on that one, and I'm going to say I want to put a stroke sync there. And we'll click wait at depth. So wait for it to be done before it goes onto before it rotates the C. And again over to here. And now you can see it says all checks passed. So let's take a render and see what it looks like. So we'll give you the two windows again, and we'll slow this down for the play. And we'll click on play. So you can see the first thing we're doing is now pinch turning. You can see these are synced up. So the one tool is not going to start until the second one's in position. As you can see, the lower turret is stopped here. It's waiting for the finish pass to be finished on the upper turret. So it changes tools, comes down, finishes. Now it's going to change tools on the upper head and come over, and you can see now it's getting into position, and they are not going to start till they're both in position. And even though one may be drilling faster than another, depending on how you have your feeds and speeds set on your control, because you can't exactly know when one's going to start and one's going to finish, depending on the travel of the upper and lower turrets. One may get there before the other one does, but when they start drilling, they're going to be in sync. But if for some reason you have one starting out a little bit farther than the other one, that's still okay, because it's not going to rotate the C-axis until they are both cleared out of the part. And then again, start drilling. Now the same thing is going to happen with the, zoom this up a little bit, with the milling. So now it's doing a tool change. The other one's already in position waiting for the upper turret to do a tool change and back in. Now you can see rotating. It's not rotating until they're both finished. Then back out. And of course, with any pinch milling or pinch drilling, they have to be in multiples of 2. Of course, they have to be straight across from each other. So, you know, multiples of 2, 4, 6, 8, things like that. But that's how you do pinch milling and pinch turning. And if we click on the sync control, you can see the syncs are all correct. Now if we run some code, we can show you a little bit of what the code is going to look like. So if we go through the code here, you can see I have them synced up, so the sync codes are lined up. Usually a FANUC control starts at an M100. Other controls may be a little different, but you can see here is the turning, and you can see each pass is synced with a starting point, a starting M code. And then we get down to the half-inch drill, and this is where we're doing the 55 degree on the upper head and the half-inch drill on the lower head. So the lower head is getting the tool into position and going to the X and Y location. But then if I scroll down a little bit, you can see it has a weight code of an M114. So here's the finish pass for the shape. Then the upper turret calls up the half-inch drill and gets into position, same as the lower head, and we have a sync code right here, M114. And then you can see the first drilling position here. Then they sync and come out, and this is sitting there on the lower turret while the upper turret rotates the C-axis. Then we have an M118, drill again, rotate, etc. Then the same with the finish end mill. It's getting into position, giving a weight code because the upper turret takes a little bit longer to get into position because it has to do a tool change. So then it gets into position, M124, the M code to turn on the live tool. And then we have an M code 125, and there's our first drilling sequence. It goes into a sub, and then of course we rotate again, sub, rotate again, sub, rotate again. So that is the how the sync codes line up with the pinch milling and turning. If we turn this off here, and we just go back to an ISO view, zoom this up a little bit to make it a little bit easier to see. We'll run it through one more time. There, you can see a little bit better now. So then again, lower turret's waiting for the upper turret to get into position. Come over, finish tool. Lower turret still waiting. Then we have our first sync code here as far as the drilling goes. Then again, the upper turret waiting for a tool change. Come back over, mill, mill, and mill. So there you have your part. Pinch turning, pinch drilling, pinch milling. Easy to do. Okay, thank you for watching.